All right, functions. So functions are great. They help make our code clean, easy to read. There's two principles, like computer design, like computer code design principles, like patterns. No, yeah, principles. So there's dry. Does anybody know what dry stands for?
Don't repeat yourself.
Yeah, don't repeat yourself. So if you ever find yourself copying and pasting code, especially JavaScript right now, you might want to consider, well, yeah, you'll want to consider how can I use this in a function. And then the other one is separation of concerns. And this is, you know, if you have something kind of complicated that you need to do, if you can abstract parts of that to break it down and put those in functions, then it'll help you think through the process more. So if you're maybe you're having a function that's called sign up and log in, you'd want to abstract that into line up and sign in, the smaller parts, so that you can think through smaller things and not have to hold so many concepts in your mind. As lines of code aren't the easiest things to read, but if you title a function with a good title, it can help you think about it in English better. Did I say question? Comment?
Something that I've personally done quite a bit is if I have to get to the styles component or something, but I know I'm going to go to there multiple times, sometimes I make a variable that just directs there that I'm just showing it. I'm actually doing it.
So in what context?
Like if I'm going in on like a specific component and I need to change a certain point, the background color of the color, I sometimes just call it.
So you do something instead of just saying document.getElement by Z every time, you can name it one thing. Cool. Yeah, maybe you're writing a to-do app that lists out all your to-dos. You could make a function that is called create to-do, that, you know, gives it the styling and the text that it needs. But yeah. All right, so we had you do the YouTube video or the scrim or whatever, learn functions on your own, and then we go over the exercises of class. So we'll do that right now. So we've done the first one before, write a function that accepts two parameters and returns the sum. Return, we'll just call it sum2, nums. So this is a verb, right? It's like an action phrase. That's a good name for a function. All right, so it's going to take two numbers, any two numbers that are given to it when it's called, and return them. How do I accept numbers into a function, Caitlin? Cool. So now those are variables, and the way that those variables get assigned, let's use the name generator. Jeff, how do I assign numbers to parameters?
You have to put them in an argument.
Nice, perfect, and that's the right word for it too. So when we call the function, so we call a function by saying its name and then throwing in parentheses, and yeah, the arguments are what gets passed inside. And if we have 3 and 5 here, they'll be assigned to these variables. Yeah.
Like, does it matter? Like, is JavaScript, you know, like whether it matters if it's decimals or anything?
No. Yeah, it doesn't differentiate. It's always just a number. So it's, yeah, not an int versus a float or anything. Yeah, and that's for JavaScript. So with arguments and parameters, the first argument will be assigned to the first parameter. What that means is now we have a variable for num1. So what line of code would, this question's for Kevin, how would we get this function to do what we want it to? Yeah, perfect. Return num1 plus num2. What'll happen when I run this? What will we see? Nothing. So we can throw a console log around here. The reason that we can do that is because this will be evaluated first. So JavaScript will run this function first because it needs to know what to console log, and it will console log whatever gets returned. So functions are useful when they return something because then we can use that something, either to print it to the console, maybe assign it to a variable, maybe push it into an array, right? So this function, it doesn't care what the rest of the program does. It just does its own thing, and it makes it really nice. Anybody have any questions about arguments or parameters or the return statement? If a function doesn't have a return statement, by default, it returns undefined. So if this was console logging undefined, first thing I'd ask myself is, did I remember to return? But anyway, this works. And it's beautiful. Yeah, Mark.
I think I saw like in the video something about our result.
Oh yeah, yeah. So sometimes, so there's two things going on here, right? There's an expression, this needs to be evaluated, and then it gets returned. So sometimes when you have too many things happening on one line, it makes it less readable, less easy to think about. So a good way to fix that is to break it up into multiple lines like that. So in this one, okay, we're adding them together and then we're returning them. But with this one, I think this isn't too much. Like we can conceptualize that. So yeah, but either would be appropriate. Okay, I'm gonna try and leave these up because I know that a few of you like them copied and pasted into Slack. So if I delete them, try and, you can yell at me. You're like, wait, leave that there. Keep it there. Okay. So I'm gonna use the name generator. And if, yeah, to Talon, did you do the second one? Write a function that accepts 3 numbers as parameters?
Yes. Let me pull it up real quick.
Okay, go ahead and take your time. So what are some different ways that people solve this one?
Oh, okay. I've got it.
Oh, yeah.
Can you post it to Slack? Or
Post it to,
talk through it?
go ahead and post it to Slack and then talk me through it.
Okay. All right, there we go. So I just made like an array of numbers, and then I found an empty helper method called max.max, and then I used the spread operator for all the numbers, and then that should return you the largest number in any array.
Very cool. So there's some syntax that we haven't gone over yet. So this is for the 6. Here I'm going to put the big in. Okay. So this is ES6. This is an arrow function. The arguments still go in the parentheses. So I'm going to switch this up a little bit. So it says we want the function itself to accept 3 arguments. And so instead of hard coding them,
Oh, okay.
yeah. But you could definitely make an array out of the 3 once we get them. Like that. Yeah, you could. Yep. So there's some really cool operators, the rest and spread operator. Yeah, it would look a lot better with rest and spread. But we'll get to that later. This is the spread operator. What I'd actually do here, sorry. I'm gonna get rid of this line, but you can do it this way because .max takes a comma separated list. So you could accept the numbers and then run it through math.max. So math is you'll use it for like random numbers. What else can you do with the math object? Square roots, yeah. If you need to round a number, it's got a floor. So if you're given 4.7, you could turn that into 4, and it has a seal, which is for ceiling, which is the opposite of floor. But okay, so yeah, this works too. Wait, I don't want to debug. Okay. There's also another fun way to do this one with a series of if and then statements where you just check if this is bigger than that and that, then return this. So let's do that way real quick. It's not near as concise, and this one is probably what your boss would be looking for, but it's good to practice the if statement right now. So just start yelling it out. How would I write a series of if statements to return the right number here? There we go. Yeah. What do I need to do if this is true? Cool. Maybe like an else if here, right? It's going to be very similar code. Cool. I think we get the point there. I'll finish it up before I post it to Slack there. So let's move on to the next one. Write a function that accepts one number as a parameter and returns whether the number is even or odd. So we're probably going to learn a new operator. Does anybody know what it's called? Yeah, mod. I kind of like that. I always try to say like modulo, modular. Okay, so it accepts one number as a parameter. Where do I put that parameter, Caitlin? In the parentheses, yeah. Okay, cool. So that's a piece of vocabulary that needs to be memorized. This is the parameter, and we can define that parameter when we call it and pass through the argument. So how do oh, Brian's not here. How do I call this function, Jeff?
I mean, there's 2 ways to do it, but the quickest way is console.log it.
Console.log.
Odd or even, and then parentheses, put in an argument.
Cool, perfect. So when I'm testing functions, it's good to run the function a few times and put in a few different test cases, and then kind of note what you expect it to be. So what do we expect 7 to return to us? Odd, and then 6 will be even. Okay. Mark, how would we return odd for when the number is odd and even for when it's even? A for loop? Okay. So this we can definitely use for loop. What do you want I to be? Stop at.
What do you think for every other 2?
Oh, sorry. Did you say modulo 2? We'll talk about what module do. For a for loop, we'd probably want to set up a Boolean like is even equal, and if it's starting on 0, we can say true. And then if we looped for however many times whatever was passed through, then in the for loop, we could just we could toggle that. So is even is now equal to not is even, or is not even. So it just toggle, and then we, after the for loop's all wrapped up, we could return our variable. So that's how we could use a for loop there. Ooh, what did I do wrong? Some bracket mix-ups. Up top? Oh, you're right. You're right. Cool. Thank you, Diana.
What was wrong?
We haven't finished up with
Yes. Yeah, something from previous. So we don't want to return false or true. We want to return odd or even. So how could we? What code could we write to do that? Yep. If is even.
equals true.
Okay, so we can do equals true, but it is redundant because right here we're asking either is false equal to true or is true equal to true. So we can do that. So if is even, return. Yep. Ah, I'm gonna nod. Odd even. Cool. But we like to avoid for loops when possible. So, yeah, who solved it without a for loop? Here, I'll use the name generator.
Post the code if you want.
Yeah, post the code. That's a good idea. Cool. I guess I don't need to say num1 here. But yeah, if the number coming through the arguments modulo 2. So what does the modulo do? So if num is 2, what is 2 modulo 2? 0. Why is it 0? No remainder, right? And if it's 3, 3 doesn't divide evenly in 2. Well, the remainder would be 1 on 3. Because you. Here, we'll do it in the console. Let's do like with 9. 9 modulo 3 is 0 because it can evenly divide. But if we were to do 10, it would be 1.
Okay, rounds it up.
Yeah, well, what it does is it's still doing. Who can just,
And C, it gives you a remainder. So
it's the remainder. That's what it is, the remainder. Yeah. After you divide it as evenly as you can, it's the remainder. It's nice for even and odds. Yeah. But we want to see if it's equal to 0. So just modulo 2 is either going to be 0 or 1. So we need to see if it's equal to 0 or 1. But yeah, this works. Okay, the last one ramped up real quick. Did anybody complete the last one?
Yeah.
There was 2 hands and 2 yes? Okay, cool. Okay, let's do it then. Yeah, go ahead and post it.
I'm not posting code in there. Am I supposed to do it? Just post it regular or something? There's a code snippet. If you go to the chat box and click on the file sign, where you insert your text and everything. Yeah, code snippet, it lines it nicely.
You can also, the quick and dirty way. Yeah, 3 ticks, and then code, then 3 more ticks, like that.
Is that the same way as
No, they're slightly different. Talon's is the tick version, and Chris's is the code snippet version.
What's that last version?
Where's the code snippet?
Are you doing code snippet?
Yeah, I did. I just did the code
It's
snippet.
like insert, right? Over here, yeah, the little create new. Yeah, so paperclip, create new, code or text snippet.
So if I just hit 3 tildes, open the code.
Yeah, and then you got to close them. 3
3 more backticks.
Back,
Okay.
yeah, backticks. Sure, yeah. Okay, Chris, talk us through what's going on here.
So taking out a string, and then that's the parameter. And then we got our statement, length, that's when the statement's less than 20. And then returning the string, otherwise we're going to return a some string 0 to 20. So it's taking out a piece of it in a second.
Cool.
If it's too long, it cuts it out.
Okay. So
No, if it's too long, that's when we cut it. Too short is when we did the. And if it's too long, it just cuts out.
right on. I'm gonna change it slightly. So, but yeah. So what happens when this line runs? Sucka is assigned to a string. So this is like saying a string dot length or sucka dot length. But we have a cool variable to call it instead. My computer would stop freaking out. Did it delete everything? What?
I was feeling like there was an easier way to do it.
Well, no, this is a great way to do it. Just instead of 20, the requirement is for it to be half.
Oh, I thought I heard you.
Well, you did. So if the string's longer than 20 characters, then just cut it in half. So yeah, you got it here, and then this should just be. What could we change 20 to be?
You can change it to, well, if you want it to be dynamic, I guess is the word.
Okay, yeah.
Put in a variable called half, and then do a string dot length divided by 2, and then put half in the argument.
Yeah. So we could define half outside. You can just do a string dot length right in here, because yeah, it'll evaluate this first. It'll be like this is 12 or whatever, and then it'll be 0 to 12. So.
How will that handle it if it's oddly?
I don't think so, because I think this is odd, and I don't think it cut in half.
So it does, I don't know fully what side is running longer. But
Yeah, so you didn't cut it in half. You have to go divide it by 2.
You have to say divide by 2.
There you go.
Cool.
And, what's the difference between adding 2 strings and the uncap function or method?
Yeah, yeah.
It just does it automatically.
I don't know. Yeah, I'd rather look at this than dot concat, but dot concat's appropriate too. But it's the same. It's the same. This is concatenation.
It puts it into one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like adding strings together. Yeah, so this is actually pretty similar. Same strategy for Caitlin's.
What is this substring again?
Returns part of the string. Is it the same as slice? That's the same arguments as slice. Yeah, I would use slice, I think. Well,
Substring might not actually like change the string.
well, neither of them are going to change the string. Strings are immutable, so they're both going to return a segment of a string, but leave a string alone. Yeah, there might be a subtle difference that we could Google, but maybe later. So Caitlin, she's checking the length of the string. Oh, okay. So this is This is you're seeing if it's odd or even.
Yeah, I
Cool.
decided to just make it instead of just kind of like just figure it out and have a nice little.
Right on. So she wanted to make sure that the second argument of her dot slice was always a whole number. This is a good way to do it, but we can also use the math object. So I briefly mentioned it, but there's a math.ceil and a math.floor. If you wanted to, yeah, so right here you could say math.floor, and then you'd be guaranteed a whole number, because that's what floor and ceil do is make them.
So is that SDAL?
CEIL. Like that. Cool. Functions are another thing we're going to be practicing all the time. It's one of the building blocks. So it took me a while to understand how something could enter into the array, I guess. Why I could start, especially when it was a variable. So I would see this sometimes. Const, characters equals this string of characters. So the variable would be characters here, and I'd want to use characters in my function, the variable characters. But we want to make our function so that it can accept anything. And so characters, if maybe I want to use characters sometimes, but maybe I want to pass in hello manually. And this is a contrived example of a function, but yeah, I was confused how it was called characters here and string here. And it's whatever gets passed in here. It's like saying string is equal to, when this one's run, string is equal to characters. When this one's ran, string is equal to hello. And this is where it gets defined. So, any questions about functions? Cool. Let's do a 15-minute break and meet back together at 10 for some for the box model.